Good evening, everyone. I am Victoria Nicole. I am the founder of the Confessions of a Lady, which is a nonprofit organization that speaks out against domestic violence and abuse, concentrating in those girls ages of 7 and up who have been molested and or raped. I am also the creator of this here, the Confessional Room. And in the room on tonight, we're going to have a special guest by the name of LaKeshia. LaKeshia Renee, actually, she has written a book. She has gone through several of the issues and topics that we would like to discuss here in the confessional room, such as molestation. And she's going to share a bit of her story with us. If you guys are catching the replay, make sure that you share, that you let us know in the comments that you're catching the replay. Also, if you are watching the video and this may have nothing to do with you, may not be anything that you have been a product of or know someone of, but because abuse happens every 9 seconds, and in the state of Alabama in the state of Alabama, abuse and neglect is the number 8 health concern, so which means that all my lovely people who have children, this may be something that you want to share with your children. Also, it's the number 12 health concern in Alabama. Nope, I lied. Every hour on the hour in the state of Alabama, there is an allegation of abuse here in Alabama, and it is the number 8 health concern in the state of Alabama as it pertains to child abuse and neglect. Every 9 seconds, a woman is being abused. And for minorities, we are 2.5 times more likely than our counterparts to become victims of an abusive relationship. So, again, this video may not be for you, but it may be for someone on your timeline. So be sure that you do your due diligence and share this out. Hey, Keisha!
Hey, Victoria!
Hi, boo. So let me introduce you, and then we could just go into the flow. So Keisha and I met. Lady is going to be 9 in July, and I think I was pregnant with Lady. So I've been knowing Keisha going on 9, almost 10 years, because I was carrying her when I met her, or I had just had her. Nevertheless, Keisha and I became friends through one of my really good friends, which is, of course, one of Keisha's good friends as well. And as life has it, we found out that she and I had a lot of similarities as well. And so, of course, we together formed a bond. Um, and so I will allow for Keisha just to share a little bit of her biography with you guys, and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is LaKeshia Renee. I am a Georgia girl now. I'm just kidding. I'm still Alabama. But so I have four, I have 5 kids with one late, Akaya. I'm a dental assistant. I have a ministry called Save a Life Resurrection Ministry, which basically wraps around battered women and children who's seeking help, who's homeless, seeking the homeless. Also, um, ministering to parents who have lost their children to death, because I did lose one of my daughters to death as well. So it pretty much in a nutshell what that is. I'm an author as well. I have written a book called The Chosen One. I'll pretty much get into that later. It's a book of my life where I was transparent about a lot of things that I had gone through and how I dealt with it. That's pretty much who I am. Um, and yeah. Hi,
Aww.
Swetha.
So make sure, if you would do me a favor, Keisha, if you would go ahead and drop the link for your book inside the comments, so I can go ahead and pin that, so anyone that gets on, they will know how to get in contact for your book, as well as anyone catching the replay, that they will know how to, purchase a copy of your book. If you'll do that for me.
Yeah.
So, Keisha, so tell us about, so as you know, in the confessional room, anything goes, but our main focuses are on sexual abuse, molestation, domestic violence, and things of that nature, whether it's pertaining to children, yourself, or whatever the case may be. So just take us through your life, and how did you come to agree to be in the confessional room? And I'm trying to share this out, so I'm trying. This, let me go ahead.
Um, so pretty okay. So pretty much, I had gone through some as a child. I had gone through some molestation from my sister's dad, who was in the household. Not only him, I had gone through it also with another guy friend of my mom, and a girl that also was a friend of my mom's daughter. Why was this thing kept, attaching itself to me? I don't know. But being a 4-year-old child, being, waking up out your sleep to be tampered with, and from a man that you so-called wants to be your dad, that's kind of like a frightful thing for you. This thing kind of went on for me for about 5 years of my life. Never told anyone because I was afraid. I was always bribed. That's why I'm very close with my girls, because I talk with them a whole lot about different men and being around them. I'm very particular about who they are around. As I went through that in my life, I kind of wanted to know why was I chosen to go through the molestation, being tampered with. That kind of made me grow up as a young adult early in life, being that I got pregnant with my first daughter at 13 years old. People always ask me how, what are you going to do with a baby at 14 years old, and not knowing the story behind it. There's always a story behind someone else, something else that goes on in someone's life. So you can't just judge the book by its cover. I wasn't a 13-year-old teenage parent because I just wanted to go out and have sex with boys. No, I had been tampered with, so I was introduced to sex at a really early age. So, I thank God that my mom was there to help me once I had my daughter at 14 years old, continuing to live my life, going through high school, going to college, and, just going forth. And my daughter and I, to this day, have that bond. So it didn't matter with me being the age that I was when I birthed her. So, it anger, I decided I became angry. I became bitter. Um, in so many aspects in my life, and with my biological dad, he was present, but it wasn't that relationship that a princess would want with her father. So I kind of went through those things in life or whatever, but God allowed me to deal with those things and face them. And once I decided to face those things in my life, God started to allow me to look at the persons who had done this, because saying that they was dealing with something as well. You never know what that person may be dealing with, drugs or whatever they had allowed to come into their system to manipulate or molest a child. You look at them and you see them as sick. Once you become sensitive to the Holy Spirit, God started allowing you to, see and forgive and, move forward into life. And that's what started to happen to me. That's when I was able to be transparent and talk to other people about what had happened into my life. My mom didn't find out until before I published my book. A lot of the things that had happened, she knew about the molestation, but that just kind of went on, throughout life or whatever. As I stated, I became angry, I became bitter, I became resentful when I was going through that.
So and for some reason my phone won't let me share. So let's talk about so anybody who's joining in, please share this broadcast out. Again, this may not be for you, but I'm sure that someone on your timeline has gone through or may be experiencing, some type of molestation or abuse. And we want to make sure that we get this message out and have these conversations to bring knowledge to the situation. Um, I want to go back because if I heard you correctly, Keisha, you said that it started with you at the age of 4, or did you say 3?
4.
And when this
It
happened,
started at the age of 4.
and what was, if you don't mind going into detail, what actually took place? Because what I am finding with having these conversations, just talking to people in general, people have a misconception of what molestation is. They don't think that it in most people's mind, they believe that it has to be penetrational. So if you don't mind going into a little detail, if not, then you can get the book. Of what started with you at 4 years old.
Well, we were being he was my stepdad at the time, was being our babysitter at the time, and he would come in the room while we were all asleep, and he would get me out of my bed and take me into my mom's room, and pull down my panties or make me suck his penis or play with my vagina, or allow his penis to just kind of penetrate my area, not actually putting his penis into my vagina, but just allowing himself to just play with it. And you know it was pretty
Just
scary because you don't you don't know how to respond, being a 4-year-old child, and this allowing this happening for 5 years of your life, and you having to be silent.
so did he? And so it started off at the age of 4. At any time did he ever penetrate you?
No, no,
And so you
it never was a penetration.
that, and then
Oral sex. Um,
it was oral
it was
sex.
more oral
So did
sex,
you
and
ever?
more. I'm sorry, I
Okay.
didn't hear you.
And so no. I was just repeating you saying that it was more oral. And so you also mentioned that you had an encounter with a female as well. Because a lot of people also believe that molestation can only come from the opposite sex, and that's not true. So what took place with you and the female?
So, again, being left alone, there's your peers, your parents, children, or whatever. You go to your mom's friend's house, and they tell you, the kids to go in another room, and kids in there humping and doing, guys knows what. And that just was a situation for me and her. She started to fumble with me. I had never been with a girl, before or whatever, but what the things that she started to do to me, it made me feel good. So I thought it was okay. But going on into the latter years, I started to wonder, why why was I looking at girls in a certain way, whatever. That brought into a homosexuality spirit unto my spirit, because I had been tampered with something that, or another, or same sex, so you have to be careful with that. And that thing continued to be strong on me for a long time, and I kind of wonder what was it until God revealed to me back all the way then. I probably was about 10 to 12 years old when it happened. Why was that so prominent?
So you went from 4 years old to about 9, being tampered with by your mother's boyfriend or stepdad, and then starting at around 9, between 10 and 12, you then began to get fondled with by a female. So if I'm hearing this correctly, at no
Mm.
time were you ever just left alone sexually, um, willingly, like unwillingly, like you were always from a young age up until mid teenage years, you were always being fondled with. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, yeah, that's it. So it didn't stop there though. It didn't stop there. So in between time, there was a situation where another guy friend of my mom's, um, wanted to take me into the basement. He would take me into the basement and, pretend as if he's showing me something, and, and I will go down there with him because I'm still friendly to this day. And, he would make me suck his penis. And so, the thing was, I mean, you're 6, 7, give you $1, give you $1 and some candy. You think that's okay. Shh. Don't tell your mama, don't tell nobody. You know. So again, it was like, okay, God, why me? Why am I being messed with? It took away my um it took away my just so much peace away from me. It took joy away from me. It took away my childhood. So, when I got to middle school and high school, boys was all I wanted. They had brand named me in school. They called me Freak Monique. Why? Because I was, in with the boys all the time, all the time. So, it stemmed from something that happened so young in my life that I took it with me. And then, I became pregnant at 13 years old and had my daughter at 14 years old, raising a daughter in high school. You know, the thing just happened.
So you went from, like I said again, if you guys are just tuning in tonight, this is Miss LaKeshia. She is talking about her molestation. She was molested at the age of 4 to about 10 years old from one of her mother's stepdad. And then around 10, 11 years old, she had began to be fondled with a female. And then in the interim, another male friend of her mother's would take her into the basement to perform oral sex on her for exchange for little to no money and or candy. And so then LaKeshia became pregnant at the age of 13, and that's currently where we are in her story. Also, the pinned comment is for you all to catch a copy of her book, where she goes into greater details about these incidents throughout her life. So go ahead, Keisha.
Um, so you kind of tell them about it, and it's kind of like, I
You
believe
froze,
you, but and
you
so
froze up again.
that allows. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. So, okay. Uh, going through that, going through that, and being who he was in my life and my mom's life, and putting, it kind of put, you know, it allows so much anger and bitterness to just come over my life in every aspect of my life. And so you grow older and you wonder, why all that stuff come about with a person and so forth, whatever. And it allowed me to stop judging people about for who they are, because you never know what that person might have gone through or what they're going through that allowed them to be who they are. So I allow God allows me now to be as transparent about any situation. I listen to whomever first, and then I speak. um you know Even with my kids, I don't care if they're a boy or girl. Even with my kids, I'm very cautious about who they're around, and I talk with them a whole lot. I'm very open with them. It's nothing that they can't come and talk to me
Mm-hmm.
about. So I think that's very important as a parent to your child. Because these things happen.
And they do, and I don't think people understand. And I know that you mentioned earlier, Keisha, where you were saying that let me get it right, that you had mentioned that now you look back and you wonder what happened to those individuals to make them act like that. And that takes you to be I believe, in a place of forgiveness and a place of healing when you actually begin to reflect on why the person who abused you. Because I'm a strong believer as we are born in this world as clean slates, and then something happens along the way that kind of takes us off that perfect track, even though we are all born into sin. And I believe that anybody who can take it upon themselves to abuse another person has been abused. And that's just my thought process. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. Everything is a learned process. It has to come from something or somewhere. So I do believe that something has happened in their life, even if it was for them to turn to drugs, something happened to make them want to feel. A person wants to get back to that peace. They want to feel good. What makes you feel good? So something happens to them, and whatever happens to them, they kind of carry it out throughout their life to try to, not knowing that they're manipulating other people, um, to make themselves feel good.
I, I definitely agree with that. Okay, so when you're at the age of 13 and you had just had your baby girl who just recently graduated, congratulations, you have a whole graduate in your hands. What else would you like to share in regards to your abuse in your life?
Um,
Okay,
it
that's so
allowed
much.
me the enemy, yeah, the enemy had me so bound with it, y'all, till it was uncomfortable for me to even allow my child to breastfeed me. I mean, for me to breastfeed my child because I felt violated, and God had to, I had to pray through the thing and ask God to help me, to deal with this, whatever, because something that just took my just took my little just peace away, my little joy away. Now I can't even bond with my child, you know. So eventually God allowed me to deal with it, but it was hurtful and painful to me that something that happened so deep and so long ago still affected me.
Now, I've never heard it put that way. Um, that you being abused sexually actually made you not want to breastfeed feed with your child because you felt violated. Like that's new for me. I've never heard anyone say that, but I can see how that can be, because if you've been violated for so long with your body, allowing for something so natural to come along in your mind, it became a little skewed. Like, oh, okay, so she needs to latch onto my breast, whereas other people in my past have latched onto my breast sexually. So you've had four other children. Were you able to get over that in order to breastfeed your other children? Or have you never been able to
Nope.
perform that task?
I tried it, but as I stated, that it felt so violating until I couldn't. I just went on and bottle fed them instead.
So would you
So it
say
ran
that you
deep.
have
That
been?
pain ran really.
I can tell that. So do you think that you have truly healed from the abuse of molestation and molestation?
I wouldn't say that I'm completely healed, but I'm healing because it's still
Okay.
instances that happen, and it's still, mine still reflects back to that incident. As I can even, if I reflect back to it, I can even smell the scent of this man. When this happened, that's how deep it is for me. But I do believe, I did forgive him. We did talk, and before I wrote my book, before I published my book, he did come and he apologized to me, and and so forth or whatever. And at that time in my life, I was where God had opened my heart to forgiveness, for that. So but I still deal with it, not on a consistent basis, but it does come forth.
So you still have triggers. Explain your triggers to others, because a lot of people don't understand. They just think, oh, that's just I just act this way because of whatever, this is the way that I am. And I try to get people to understand that these are called triggers. These are suppressed memories or suppressed emotions that you currently have, that you have not truly dealt with. This is the reason why certain things still bother. Like I tell people all the time, if I smell Ken Cole Black, I swear that smells like someone who I had an encounter with, that it was not pleasant. Or when I used to see a certain type of car, I would get nervous or anxious when I'm driving because that particular person, they drove this car. And so people don't understand. They just feel, oh, this is who I am. Explain to the people what are triggers, if you know what those are for you.
Um, as I stated, just anybody that I'm not familiar with, that touches me inappropriately, or a certain way, or rub against me and touch my breast, or something like that, that triggers me, and I become angry sometimes, when this happened and so forth. And so, I have to, ask God, okay, God, okay, Keisha, step back. Okay, God, deal with me, you know. So there are triggers that do come forth, that reminds me of.
So you mentioned again that you have five kids, right? One, two, three, four, five, five. And so how did the molestation affect you as it pertains to dating, and just your personal life? Did it have any effect with that? Like, I know that you had a daughter at 13, well, pregnant at 13, and had them at 14. Um, so how did that affect your dating, being molested? If let me recap everybody who's just joining in. This is a good friend of mine. Her name is Keisha, and she is sharing with you guys how she was molested from the age of 4 up until 9 by her stepfather, and then again at 11, 12-ish by a female friend, of her mother's, well, her mother's friend's daughter, let's put it that way. Also in the interim by another male gentleman, would take her into the basement of her home and make her perform oral sex on her in exchange for little to no money or candy. And that's just kind of where we are in the conversation. She's also shared with us, that she had a daughter got pregnant with her daughter at the age of 13, and then had her at the age of 14. And if you all are just joining, this again may not be for you, but someone on your timeline. So please share this out. So we are there. And I had just asked you the question of, how did, if it had affected you in your personal life as dating once you got older?
Um, it really didn't affect me to someone that was close to me that I was dating. But, even with my kids and their dad, I didn't trust him around them. That's how bad it didn't matter who the man was. That was his own kids, whatever. But in my mind, it's like, I felt like I was his kid, and he still did me that way. No, Gabby, don't go sit in his lap. No, Jeremiah, no, you don't have to. I constantly, remind them, and I guess that's a part that triggers me as well. With my kids, and being around other people, because people have sick minds, and they really just don't. They see kids that are so innocent, and decide to mess with them. And these kids, we have curves, and so forth, and people don't think, to you know that, okay, in the long run, what may this do to this child? What would this do to her? What would this do to him in the long run of their life?
Mhm. And I definitely understand. I know, we had a previous guest, I want to say on last week, and she felt the same way. She has several children, and she said how when she was dating her now husband of forever long, she would still get worried or kind of cautious when he would get up in the middle of the night, and she was always, behind him, making sure that he went to the bathroom or went to the refrigerator and came directly back. And she too stated, even though they've been married for so long, she still sometimes feels her guard is still kind of up to, these are her children. And even though she's healing through her process as well, she still is on guard. And I think I may be able to speak for everybody when I say, even though we are healing or we have healed in certain areas, in the back of our mind, we're still cautious. As parents, we have to be cautious, period. But when you have been violated, I think it also brings another level of, being cautious into your life. Could you agree to that?
I agree. I agree. As you stated, because when you are parents, you do want to be cautious because you know what's going on in the world. But when you've been, as you stated, once you've gone through that yourself, as personally, you're very cautious, not only for yourself, but especially your children. So I do agree with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I definitely,
And
I definitely would.
when your kids come to you, and and tell you something, that somebody's messing with them, or whatever the situation may be, listen to them. Don't push them off to the side, or tell them to come back later and so forth, or whatever, or they don't know what they're talking about, because they do.
Yeah, I
It
definitely
can,
think
it
that
can
as
be
well.
prevented.
Yeah, I definitely think,
Yeah, so
At an
it
early
not only,
age. You cut out, Keisha. Not only what?
so not only is it, does it become sexual abuse, it becomes emotional abuse and mental abuse, so you're not only dealing with one thing, you're dealing with three or four more different things, because not only have you been tampered with, so you feel violated, you see you're being sexually abused, and then now you got to deal with the emotional part of it. How do I deal with this? I can't tell nobody. Your mind is consistently wandering, you know so it's just a lot. It's a lot that and no child should have to go through that. They should be able to enjoy their childhood and be innocent in who they are. And not have to go through all those different emotions as a baby.
And I'll never understand. I know lady will be 9 next month, and she and I've been having these conversations, early on in life, just about good touch and bad touch. And if you all do not know, I know here in the state of Alabama, I can't speak for anywhere else. Any event that your child is everly sexually abused, when going to court or presses charges, your child has to be able to say vagina, penis, buttocks, behind. They cannot use the little cute names that we kind of give our box, our butterfly. They can't use those terminologies. So it's very important that you begin to have conversations about good touch and bad touch at a very early age, and let them know what the clinical term or the proper term is to use, because any event, God forbid, that something happens to any of your children, and you go through the process of not killing them, um, but you go through the process of pressing charges. They must be able to identify their body parts. Even if they point to them, they have to be able to say my breast, my vagina, my behind, my penis. Those are imperative to pursuing your case. I just wanted to put that out there. At Keisha, at what age do you think that it will be beneficial for a parent to have this conversation with their child
Or
about
I
good touch
think at
and
the
bad
age of
touch?
4, because at the age of 4, because the kids they start to, and when developing, they start to remember things at the age of 4. That's when they're like a sponge. So anything you tell them at that age, it kind of just carries on with them as they go, grow as a child or until adults. So I think the age 4 is, you know I started talking to mine really early. Just as early as they start talking, let me know. So I guess at least 3, 4 years old.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it does go with maturity, but I believe, you're still bathing your children, at those young ages. And how I explained it to Lady was, as I was bathing her, no one is ever touching this area. This area is called, such your vagina. This is called your breast. This is called your behind. And these are your private areas. They're your private areas because clothing covers them. And you don't want anybody to ever, tamper in the areas that you have to keep covered with clothes. And it doesn't matter what the person says. You need to come and always tell me. If you feel like you can tell me, I have another person in your life that you should be able to tell this to. But if this person touches you, you also know you need to come tell me. And make sure that your child always feels safe. Make sure, like Keisha was saying, that you have an open door with them. If they ever say anything to you out the way, as a mother, as a parent, your first reaction is to snap off, but you have to control yourself in that moment, because you really only have a short window until they may shut down on you and feel like they can't come to you. Does that make sense? Because Keisha even said herself, Keisha, you were in your 30s way before you told your mother everything. And I know for myself, I was 32, 31, 32 years old before I shared with my mother. And so you never want to make your children feel like it's an open door to come and talk to you. So Keisha, what would you tell the people um, who have gone through molestation? What are some skills or some tips you can share with them to begin healing?
Um, Facing it, facing the situation, going to that person that who tampered with you and so forth, and just let them know how you feel. What did it do to you in your life? And, of course, prayer is the number one thing, asking God to just, heal you so that you can be a better person. And, because, if you're not whole and you're not healed, then you can't be any good for anybody else. So it don't matter what relationship you get in, you may be, continue to roll out into different relationships because you haven't dealt with some things in your life and you're not totally healed. So, as I stated, talk to that person, learn forgiveness, because it's not, when you're not forgiven, it's not that you're hurting that person, you're hurting yourself, when you're not forgiving someone who has done some harm to you, because you're living in that resentment, you're living in that anger, you're living in that bitterness every day. So that's one first step. It may not be easy, and that's where you ask God to heal you and help you to get to that point. It wasn't easy for me to sit down and tell my mom. It wasn't easy for me to sit down and tell her how I felt. It wasn't easy for me to tell her why I resented her for so long, but I had to do it so that I can heal, so that I can be better. And I can say, you know, this has been one of the best years of my life since I put that out. When I wrote that book, that was a purge for me. That was something to get it out my system. I didn't care if one soul bought that book. It was for me, but those who did purchase the book, it helped them, and you know, they're grateful for my transparency to know that they're not alone.
Yeah, so I definitely, as you all know, I love to say to the age when dealing with anything, you first have to acknowledge that it happened. For so long, with things like molestation, especially when they happen at a young age, like 3 and 4, 5 and 6 and 7, we would like to believe that it was just a dream. But then you get those triggers where, like Keisha was saying, for her, people can't touch up against her breast, or they can't touch her in a certain way. It makes her feel like she's a child again. She even had issues with breastfeeding her child, something that's so natural. She felt that it was a violation to her. So you first have to acknowledge that these things have happened to you in your life in order for you to heal. And then you have to accept that they can't be changed. It happened. But in that acceptance stage, you have to be able to forgive yourself and the person that it happened to. So oftentimes we don't want to forgive that person of the things that happened, but when they're dead and gone, they're not going to apologize. And you don't, when you're going through acceptance or through the forgiveness, you have to be willing for these people to never acknowledge that it even happened. You're not forgiving them for them to say that they're sorry. You're forgiving them so that you can heal and move on. And then there's the affirmation, like, you're deserving of more. Then you are not a victim, you're a survivor. If God saw fit that you were able to live through that, that means that He had greater purpose for you in your life. So you can't think that you're thrown away or that you're garbage. It doesn't matter if you make a mistake in this moment. God sees fit that you continue to live through it. So therefore, there is more for you. You are deserving of more. So that is something that I believe that we can all live by. Forgiveness. I can't hone in that enough, that it's not for the other person. You have to understand that you're upset with that other person, but that other person probably has gone on and lived their life, and they're not even worried or thinking about you 2 times over. But you're sitting here harvesting depression,
Right.
anxiety. You didn't got addicted to sex or opioids or whatever the case may be, and they're living their life, and you're upset with them because they're living their life, and you're depressed. So when it comes to forgiveness, it's truly not for the other person but yourself. So Keisha, what are some last remarks that you want to leave? Oh, and when it comes to sexual abuse, like Keisha also said, it's the physical part I believe that we can all heal from, but it's those other spirits and things that attach themselves to you, as far as the emotional abuse, um the emotional and the verbal abuse. Because 9 times out of 10, if someone has sexually abused you, they have also spoke negative words over you. And so you begin to think that you are those things, and you begin to believe that you can't live a better life, or that they're going to kill your mother, or they're going to harm you, or whatever the case may be. But that is also not true. So, Keisha, what are some last remarks that you want to leave the people with?
Um, I would say, accept the things that has happened to you, within your life, and ask, pray to God and ask Him to heal you from those things, that has happened to you, because you are who God called you to be, you are not alone. And you can make it. You can have that joy back, you can have that peace back, you can have back and be all that God said that you could be. Even though you've gone through that things in your past, that's gone. God tells us that old things pass away and all things come new. Once you take that step out into your life and say, okay, I'm taking me back. Nobody's gonna hold me bound. This thing that's happened to me when I was a child, it's not gonna hold me bound anymore. I'm gonna, find out who I am. And once I find out who I know I can take flight from there. So, don't allow that thing to identify you for who you are, to say that you're not this or that, or to make you sell your body, or to make you go from this man to that man, or this woman to that woman, because you feel like you've gone through that as a child, and that's who you are. That's not who you are. That's not who God called you to be. And moving forward, if it's something that you don't go through something for yourself. You always going, once you go through, you're going through for something, someone else. So share your story. Don't just sit and be quiet and you just having conversations. It's not coincidence that God may sit you once by someone that just wanted to share that story with you, and you guys just coincidentally have the same story. It's not a coincidence at all. It's God. So He's wanting you to share your story to allow them to know that they're not alone. You don't know what your words may be to encourage them, that they can make it, or that they are loved, or that they can be loved. So, always be transparent, share your stories. Don't allow the enemy to shut your mouth. Um, and greater is coming, even if it takes for you to journal it, until you get to where you need to go to be, because that's what I had to do. God allowed me to start writing. That's how I ended up writing my book. He put it in steps for me. He put me through school. He put me through English classes. I had to go through all this grammar, and then he allowed me to start journaling and putting down everything that I was going through that day. Whatever I went through that day, whatever I wanted God to do for me, I just started journaling. And when I started journaling, I started to feel better, because it's a therapy for me. So even if you have to write it down, what happened to you, or even if you have to write down forgiving that person, you don't have to go to that person and say, hey, I forgive you, or so forth, or whatever. Write it down and let it out your heart, that what has happened to you is gone, and allow God to heal you. That's the only way that you're going to be able to move forward.
That's good, Keisha. That's real good. And I thank you so much for doing this interview with me. I really do appreciate it. It takes a strong person who is deep off in their healing process to even want to share their story. Many people have gone through, these same situations, and for so long they feel like they're the only one. And I really believe that's just a trick of the enemy, making us feel as if we are isolated and that it only happens to us, that no one else is going to understand. But there are so many other people, so many women and or men who will watch this video and understand that they are not alone, and that there is glory on the other side of their abuse. And I thank you again so very much for coming into the confession room and being so transparent with your story. I know that maybe they'll never make a comment on this live, but they'll watch it and understand and know that they too can come out. So again, I thank you so much for coming into the confessional room. You guys, make sure that you get a copy of her book. She did put the website in the pinned comments, and be supportive of this. This will, I see it. um Her book will truly help you, through your healing process, because you'll read it and you'll see yourself in it, and you'll see yourself, that there is, like I said, there's victory. And I want you guys to understand and know that you are not alone. I don't like to share the statistics, but I love for people to be informed. In the state of Alabama, child abuse and neglect is a number 8 concern. And every hour on the hour, there is an allegation being reported of child abuse and neglect in the state of Alabama. Every 9 seconds, um, every 9 seconds there's a woman being abused, and African American women are 2.5 times more likely to be in an abusive a relationship than our counterparts. So it's imperative that we COL in the confession room is not just because we wanted a blog or a broadcast. We wanted to inform you guys and let you all understand and know that you're not alone, that this is happening.
Unfortunately, it happened. It's happening, and until we speak up enough, it will continue to happen. But because we feel in COL and our guests feel that it's imperative, we will always do this every Monday to let you guys know that you are not alone and that you too can come out. Suicide is not an option. Depression is not an option. Anxiety won't keep you bound. Those opioids that you're drinking, that you're taking, is not going to keep you bound. The drinks that you're trying to cover up those emotions won't keep you bound. You sleeping around with every time Dick and Harry, Amber and Stu, whoever, whatever your drug addiction is, it's not going to keep you bound. Once you begin to understand and know that you have value and purpose in your life, God will begin to restore you. And every day that He allows your eyes to open is a confirmation that He sees more in you, that He wants to get more to you. You just have to catch up to what God sees you as. Okay? All that, all that. All right, you
Don't
guys, this is the
don't
end.
have me starting on this now.
So, you guys,
Have a
this
whole
is
set.
the end.
Break out.
I brought it back in, Keisha. I had to tone it back in. I felt myself going to have to bring it back in. All right, you guys, this is the end of the confession room. We will see you back on. We will see you guys back on next Monday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time here in the confession room. She just joined us. Miss Queenie Love will be in the confession room with us all the way from Baltimore, Maryland, sharing her story about abuse. I never tell you what we're going to talk about. We're just going to come in the confession room and just talk, because with therapy or with healing, we can write a script all day, every day, but it's more relatable when we just have an open dialogue. So you will always know that it's abuse related, so you'll know that. So please make sure that you tune back in with us on next Monday here in the confession room as we speak with Miss Queenie Love. Until next time, you guys, know that God made no mistakes when He made you. Your imperfections make you perfect, so therefore you're imperfectly perfect. Ain't nothing wrong with you. All right, you guys, we'll see you next